Let's get started. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the resumption of the Open Game Data Open Office Hours for spring semester and possibly going forward from here. And I just want to do a brief intro on what these sessions are before we hand it off to Jimmy, who's going to be our presenter for this week. So the Open Game Data Community is this NSF-funded research incubator that